live on here and also on my Facebook page. And I will probably be either doing a live stream on Instagram or TikTok, or usually I'll just put recorded videos on there. I'll leave all the details in the description where you can find me on my social media. But also, if you want to make a counselling inquiry, the best place to go is my Facebook page, Marianne Hanson Counselling Service. That has got all of the details. It's got my website, WhatsApp, email, all the details where you can make a counselling referral. And I know that some people last time I did this live stream were talking about wanting to make a counselling inquiry. Again, you can probably put in the comments your, I wouldn't advise putting your details in the comments, to be honest, because then it's accessible to everyone. It's best to just send me a private message, go to my Facebook page, you'll find my details on there. So what I'm talking about in this video, this is a relationship video. Every Wednesday I normally post relationship topics, but I thought this kind of fits in with some of the work that I'm doing and some of the things that have been coming up for people, and that is 5 things that can ruin your relationship. So anyone that joins, feel free to leave your comments. Feel free to also share this with other people if you think they're going to find it of value. So the first thing that can ruin or, you know, have a massive impact, negative impact on your relationship is focusing on the past. So many people will be in a relationship, whether you're in a relationship for a year, whether you're in it for 15 years, whether you're married, or whether it is just serious or you're just getting to know each other. Every minute you spend focusing on the past is a minute wasted. You've got to make a decision that if something from the past is still affecting you and you've been together now 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, then you need to decide what you're going to do about it. So your options could be go to couples counselling and explore it. Your another option could be to let it go. Hai Teng Sheng. Your option could be to, talk it out, and then that's it. Have your final conversation about it. The problem is when people are so focused on their past, Hai Shakib, they're not being grateful for what's going right in their relationship. They're not paying attention to where they are now, and many people will lose that because what they'll start to do is they'll start to say, well, yeah, we're in a good place now, but 10 years ago this is what happened, or I can't get past what you did 6 months ago, and if you can't get past something, that's fine for you to say that, and also fine for you to have that feeling. However, what's the point in continuing forward and continuously then going back to the past and saying I can't move forward from that? Isn't it better to work it through? The title is 5 things that can ruin your relationship. I'm Shakib. So, hi Delulu. So, the first one, is focusing on the past. So what you need to just do with that is you need to pay attention to what's going on in your first relationship. In your current relationship, not your first. Put that as the priority. You also need to take some time to look at, hi Kiki, to say to yourself, what are some of the positives that are actually happening? What's working? That's something that I always ask the couples that I work with, or even individuals. I'll say, when they're talking constantly about, we're arguing for the last 6 months, or we haven't been, there's intimacy issues, or whatever else it is, hi Eva, then sometimes I'll turn around and I'll say, well, what is working? And they stop and think, you know what, we never really thought about what was working or what was going well, because the focus has been so much on the past. The past could even be what happened yesterday or what happened last week. So it's all right to, talk about the past, but it's about how productive you're going to be with it, what you're going to do about it, because thanks Agar, no one can erase what's already happened. No one can actually go back and redo that. So what you need to do is make a conscious decision. You can say, this thing is bothering me so much, Sishole, that that we need to work on it. We need to work through it. So that's the first thing, is focusing on the past. That's something that can ruin a relationship. The second one is in 3 different things. So it's a lack of respect, a lack of understanding, and a lack of patience. It's all rolled into one because they all come under each other. So this is about people constantly doing things which might not be like outright disrespect. It might not be shouting, swearing, that sort of thing, but it might just be little things that you keep doing that are disrespectful to your partner. So a good example would be answering for your partner when they're sitting right there, saying something, talking for them and thinking that you're helping them out, when really they're thinking, why are you talking for me? You know, that is one of the, hi, I'm Daniel, that is one thing that lots of people find disrespectful, but they won't confront you on it, but they'll be thinking in their head, why is my partner treating me like a child? Someone has asked me a question, why are they answering? It could also be things like talking about your partner behind their back. Now, there's nothing wrong with exploring with your friends and family how the relationship is going, but you have to also be mindful that if you're talking really disrespectfully, not about the relationship, but about your partner, someone's put, oh, okay, NZ, I'll answer that afterwards. So you're saying, am I able to live a normal life while being a counsellor? Yeah. Being a counsellor doesn't mean you can't live a normal, I don't even get that question. So anyway, the respect thing, so lack of respect. So what that can come across as being, you might not feel you're being disrespectful to your partner, but if you're doing lots of things where you're making decisions or you're taking, but your behaviour is disrespectful, what might happen? It's about, Oscar, it's about 5 things that can ruin your relationship. What might end up happening is one day your partner will just wake up and say they've had enough. And this is when people sometimes, the partner just says, I want to end the relationship, or they ask for a divorce. People will be like, where did that come from? I didn't know this was happening. It's because deep down this person hasn't been expressing to you that they feel disrespected. And then one day they just think, I've had enough. I'm going to go and find a partner who will be respectful. So you need to just keep a lid on. You need to be aware of it when you're doing that. The other part which comes under it as well is understanding your partner. It doesn't matter how long you've been together with someone for. You can make the mistake of thinking you know them better than they know themselves. You can make the mistake of just being complacent and thinking, I don't have to get to understand them. I don't have to, you know, work on this anymore. I don't have to ask my partner the question. I know the, you know, when people say things like, I know my partner better than they know themselves, we finish each other's sentences. I can tell what he or she's thinking. I know, I can answer for them. I know exactly what, people change. And it's not a bad thing. People grow, it's not a bad thing, but you can't assume. So the thing is, you should always be curious about your partner no matter how long you've been together. So you should, if you want to understand that person, it helps. It's about communication. It's about talking to them. Just because 10 years ago they were interested in something or that thing was what they wanted, you know, that was their goal 5 years ago, doesn't mean that's where they are now. There's loads of people I speak to, not even as couples, but individuals, the thing that they wanted. Hi, George. Oh, thanks for subscribing to my channel. Appreciate it. Hi, Nabil. So you can't assume. Understanding means that you're constantly curious about your partner. You're constantly thinking, okay, well, you know, what's going on with them now? What are some of their dreams that they've had? And you can do this by having regular check-ins. I've made a few videos about, you know, setting goals as couples. So one moment, I'm just gonna, okay. So you can do this by checking in regularly with each other, by having regular reviews of, it's not reviews, but, you know, just regular relationship, yeah, you can call it a review where you sit down and you talk. That's how you understand each other. So the other part to it, which was the salon part 2, is patience. There's a lot of people generally who do not have any patience, and it's partly because they just haven't worked on it. It takes time to work on patience. You have to do that self-work, that inner work. People generally are impatient people. They want things fast. You know, they're standing in a queue and you can see them tapping their feet, see them getting stressed if they're in a queue. People driving on the road, you know, they get impatient. Obviously, the amount of people I see that just drive through zebra crossings when there's people standing waiting to cross. People have even done it to me, and I'm thinking, can't you see that someone's standing there? Impatience. But in a relationship, what that looks like is always wanting your partner to do things on your timing. Always like not giving your partner, hi, I'm Sean, not giving your partner a chance to just do things in their own way. You know, sometimes not liking silence, so you can't deal with silence, so you're chatting away all of the time, and your partner just wants, like, you know, a break, just wants to be quiet. You know, it can be putting deadlines on things when there doesn't need to be a deadline on it. Whatever it is, you have to learn patience, because all of these things I'm talking about are things that eventually someone's just going to either snap and just say, I can't be in this relationship anymore, or they're just going to withdraw and they're not going to say anything, they're not going to speak up, they're not going to communicate, they're just going to sit there quietly because they're going to think, what's the point in me saying anything? This person doesn't respect me. What's the point in me saying anything? This person keeps talking about the past. What's the point in doing anything? This person is disrespectful to me. They're going to either quit. You know, and some people quit in the relationship, but they're still there. Remember that quiet quitting, what people do at work. The similar thing people do in relationships, they do it every day. Guido, you've put, why is it that women only behave well in relationships with negative reinforcement? That's not true. I don't think that's true, that negative reinforcement. Maybe it could be, yeah. One, I think you saying women behave well and saying that's a reflection of you. There's nothing to, it's not about you giving negative reinforcement as a man and saying that women need to behave a particular way. Women are their own person, same as men are. So if you get together with the wrong person and you're incompatible with them, then it's not going to work. But you shouldn't have to, no one should have to give any type of reinforcement to change someone's behaviour. You've got no control over another person. So it doesn't matter what you do. If that person decides they don't want to act in a particular way or do something, then they're not going to do it. There's no such thing as like that type of control, except when it's an abusive relationship. So that's number two, is the thing that can ruin relationships: lack of respect, lack of understanding, lack of patience. Number three is insecurities. So this is a big one. This could be a video in itself. I've made loads of videos about self-sabotage, insecurities and that sort of thing. So if someone said, if you're in a relationship that's incompatible, is that tolerating like nonsense or whatever the word you're saying is? There's two people in a relationship, not one. So this is where, to me, like, this is where when you work with couples, this is what people need to understand. It's not one person. The mistake that lots of people make is they keep pointing at what the other person is doing, and they keep saying, you're doing this, so this is harming the relationship. You're at fault. They're criticising the other person, but not looking at themselves. It takes two people. If you're not compatible, then why are you together? That's not down to the other person. That's down to the two of you deciding that you've not got any values similarly. You don't work, but then you're still trying to make it work. If there's incompatible, just means that two people are being mature enough to say, the things that you have and the things that I have, we're both good people, but we don't work together. So someone's put, choose to leave, all of a sudden they want to act. Well, that's your choice, Guido, that is your choice. If you want to leave a relationship, you're an independent person, you can leave. If you say that when you choose to leave, the person starts to act in a good way, that's up to you. You can still choose to say, okay, well, I'm going to stay, or I can leave. People are independent of each other, but you come into a relationship and you're not then joint together. I want to, because it's a bigger thing, it's bigger than that. I just think people need to understand that there's two people that are you're influencing each other. There's so many factors that do that. There's your energy, there's how accepting you are of each other, there's whether you have compatible values, there's whether you respect each other. There's too many things. So 1 second, just need to. So the other thing then, after lack is insecurities. So this is a massive one, and I don't want to spend too long on this because there's so much on this. So first of all, I would say that places like TikTok and social media in general isn't helping with this whole idea of insecurities, because you have loads of people who, with their own agenda, that are constantly talking about relationships. They don't have qualifications, they're not working in that field, but they're very clear on saying things like, if someone looks at another person, then that means you should end the relationship. If someone doesn't pay for the meal, then that means this. If all this stuff that the people have, which is just their opinions, and that's fine. But when it comes to insecurities, if you have insecurities that have existed before you even went into the relationship you're in, no matter what that person does, they're not going to be able to reassure you or to make you feel more secure. Now, loads of people might disagree with that, but to me, insecurities start from within. they might be influenced by something another person has done. So if loads of people have cheated on you, or if someone has cheated, then you're probably going to feel a bit insecure about yourself. But you then can still do the work where you get to that point where you say, there's nothing wrong with me. This person did this. Just because this behavior happened to me, it doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. But you then walk into a new relationship by giving that person a chance. Now, when you're watching things like Married at First Sight, for example, obviously there's so many factors that came into that. There's the fact that it's an entertainment program. There's the fact that a lot of the people were not ready. Many of the people on that show were not ready to go on a show where you get married to someone and where you have to live with them and where you have to even be in a relationship. Their insecurities were so deep that, and I think it was quite negligent really of the producers to actually put them in that position, because there's clearly at least 4 of those people were emotionally unstable and not ready for that sort of like show. It's similar to like Love Island, and you know, in the past where people have ended their lives and that sort of thing, and there was loads of people saying that it was irresponsible to put them in that position. If you're insecure, what that means is there's something within you that is a little voice telling you you're not good enough, a little voice telling you that no matter what your partner is saying to you, it's going over your head. You don't feel attractive enough, you don't feel good enough, you don't feel clever enough. Now, when you enter a relationship, that all those things are highlighted. People think that you're insecure, so you get together with a secure person and then all of a sudden you're going to feel good. You feel good for a few minutes because that person is constantly showering you with attention, they're telling you how beautiful you are, but you still haven't worked on the insecurities. So the minute that person turns their head this way when they're in the gym, your first thoughts are, oh, they're looking at that person in the gym, they want to date them, oh, they want to get together with them, they don't think I'm pretty enough. And then you start having this whole dialogue with yourself about how rubbish you are, and no one has told you that, and your partner hasn't even said that. That's coming from you. So if you don't work on your insecurities, and if you have trust issues as well, then no relationship that you're in is going to succeed. It's not going to work, because what's going to happen is the little seed, which is the insecurity, is going to just become bigger and bigger and grow more and more when you're in a relationship. So that can ruin relationships probably more than some of the other stuff, because what happens is the person is constantly trying to reassure you, and you start off as 2 comfortable, confident people. You're both good looking, you know, it's not about looks, but you both are attracted to each other. You both have sexual chemistry. Everyone's saying, oh, you're a couple, you work, you look good, you operate well, you're loving towards each other. It all starts well. Like you can see on, as I've said, Married at First Sight and some of the Love Islands and stuff, it starts well. But then the insecurities creep in because they've already been there. So they're dormant at the beginning. And then what starts to happen is the minute this person says, oh, my favourite pop star or my favourite celebrity, oh, she's pretty, or they say, oh, he's got nice muscles. I mean, if you, when I was watching Strictly, you know, if Harry, the gladiator guy, he's got his chest out, you know, people are going to look. People are going to look. That does not mean on any level that means, oh, I'm going to leave my partner for that person. That doesn't mean on any level that, oh, I fancy this person more than you and you don't have muscles. What people have to understand is there's so many factors that come into being cute, and there is levels of disrespect. You know, if you're eyeing up the waiter when you're at a restaurant and all night you are staring, and it goes past noticing, it goes to, oh, staring, constantly giving compliments. We all know what disrespect looks like, but I think some people, if they're very insecure, the minute someone is looking somewhere, they're automatically running this like story in their head. And the key thing is that some people are going to get tired of that, because they're going to feel this is mentally exhausting. If I have to constantly say to my partner I'm not cheating, if I have to constantly, they're checking my phone all the time, if I have to constantly reassure them that I'm not leaving, if I have to if you keep having to do that, any human being, whether you're male, female, you're just going to get tired of it. And you're going to say to yourself, it's not worth being in this relationship because this person is so insecure that no matter what I do, it's not going to work. So that is something really people need to work on, you know, either with a counsellor or with someone. The next one, so there's 2 more, is trying to control everything your partner does. I don't even know where to start on this. it's not even controlling in an abusive way. So Guido, you've said an ex called you insecure because you told her to get a job because you was overburdened by the bills. I told her to get, okay, and reminded it how secure I am. So yeah, so if you're living in a house, so what you're saying, Guido, is if you're living in a house and you are asking, that's a reasonable request. So you're saying to someone, I need you to contribute to the bills because I can't pay all the bills for you. What I would say with that, Guido, it depends on when you got together, what situation you were both in at that point, and what was agreed. This is the same as with, to me, if I was a celebrity and I've built up my business, or even if I was someone who was running $1 million business, if I got together with someone, it doesn't matter what level they were at. This is where things like prenups come into play. I don't understand why any celebrity who's built up millions wouldn't get a prenup, which is clear on, if we divorce, this is what you're getting this amount of money and this is my money, because lots of them don't do it. And I think what I'm trying to say with that, Guido, is, did you say to your partner at the beginning that even though you're working, your expectation is for them to contribute? Because what can sometimes happen is a person can move in with someone, they don't have the conversation, the person either loses their job or doesn't have a job. Their expectation is that the other person's going to pay all the bills, and then eventually the conversation comes up, but it needs to come up from the beginning. But now that you're in this situation and you've asked, it's got nothing to do with being insecure. I agree with you. It's more of your partner is either fearful that this is going to end the relationship because they might not be able to get the job, or they're starting to feel resentful, when I don't know why, but there's other things going on there, but it's about having the conversation. So back to what I was saying about trying to control everything. As human beings, we don't want to be caged. If you go on YouTube, as I've said, TikTok is the worst, but if you go on social media at the minute, there are so many people with lots of toxic messages, and they're all around how wonderful it is to be single. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's the things that they're putting afterwards. Men are embarrassing, women just fleece you of your money, blah, blah, blah. These messages are there because of the fact that just how society is at the moment. They can't view, or they can't envision or imagine a relationship that is working when relationships can work. The point is, so many people want to control their partner by saying, you can't go on holiday, you can't do this, there's too many can'ts, there's too many rules. And if you're in a relationship with someone and they're trying to talk to you in the sense of holding you prisoner and saying what you can and can't do, talking to you like a parent instead of your partner, making rules of things that you was doing before you met them. Anyone that says to someone, you can't go and watch the football anymore on a Saturday because you're with me now, so we need to go shopping instead, or you can't go on that holiday that you booked with your friends a year before you met me because now we're together. The person's going to comply with it. The person most likely is going to say, yes, I'll go along with that. But if you think that anyone that says yes to those things feels happy about it, they don't. And what happens is it builds resentment, because what they're then saying is, why am I all of a sudden having my wings clipped by my partner when before I met them, my life, I felt more free, I felt more happy. You have to think as a person, if you're contributing to make your partner feel unhappy because you are dictating what they do and when they do it, how long do you think that is sustainable for? It doesn't mean that you just say, okay, my partner, I'm going to be happy with everything they choose to do, and you're sat there on a Saturday night while they're out with their friends. That's not the point. But I think there's too many people which are trying to control other people, and they're doing it in a controlling way. So you can express your dissatisfaction with something. You can say, I'm really disappointed because it's our anniversary and I want to go out for a meal. But if they've already planned something, this is how I see it, is that whatever someone does, I'll never try to stop another person from doing anything. But if they do something which I don't, which has an impact on me or which I don't agree with, I'll make a choice of what I'm then going to do about that, how I'm going to respond to it. I can't stop them from doing what they're doing. And I also don't want to be in a relationship where I feel like I'm holding someone hostage, because no one has to be there. So it's about communication, but not control, because control will definitely end a relationship. I'd say the insecurities and control are probably going to have the biggest impact, because it's human nature. Human beings want to be free. They want to feel like they're getting a good deal. So when they meet you as a person, they want to feel like, oh, this feels good because I'm getting... So if someone enjoys being taken care of, their love language is nurturing, if they can come home to a partner who makes a meal for them, has good sex with them, always like responding to them when they're feeling sad, leaves them alone to having been their man cave. My sister's been married now for 15 years. They've lived in a house. Every house they've been in, her partner has a little, it's called the cinema thing. He has his cinema, and he's got all of he collects figures and things. He's had that room in every house they've had. That's his room. He does what he does. But their life is so like, they do things with the kids as a family. They go on holiday. They do things together as a couple. They don't neglect date night. They go off and do things together. She does things with her friends. She does things together. She does things on her own, then with family. They've got it. They don't need to control each other because there's trust, and that's a 15-year marriage. So what you have to think about is let people have fun, let people do what they need to do, and then they'll be happy, But if you keep putting restrictions on people, then they won't be happy. Now, the final one is people not putting the work in. So I could see people, let me just see, there's some messages on here. I don't know why. Okay. So the final one is not putting the work in. Relationships are work. Doesn't mean they're hard work. Doesn't mean they're easy work. They are work. The minute you get complacent, the minute you start taking people for granted, the minute you just think, oh, he's not going anywhere, she's not going anywhere, oh, I can't be bothered. I'm not telling anyone, I'm not going to dictate to any man, woman, or any person that they have to dress up for their partner, that they have to constantly be making an effort, that they constantly have to do whatever. That's not my role to say. But I do think there's a lot of people that are complacent, and they forget that, relationships still take work. You still have to put the effort in, whether that means you still, you carve out time to do dates together, whether that means you just pay attention to your partner sometimes, where you listen to them, where you acknowledge they exist, where you notice things. I love it when I get a new hairdo, or and I go to visit my nieces and nephews, and my nephew's really good actually. Two of my nephews, one's like 11 and one is, I think it's 24 now or something. They're so like, the minute they're like, oh, auntie, oh, you've changed your hair, oh, auntie, your outfit. And it's so nice because it's just that acknowledgement that, they've noticed. Because sometimes my sister doesn't notice and my other people don't notice, but it's nice to be noticed. It's nice to be acknowledged. So this whole idea of putting work in means that you just don't forget that just because you've been married for how many years, you just don't forget that it still takes work. Because the minute you get complacent, the minute you start thinking you don't have to try anymore, you sit back and you think, I don't need to do anything because what's the point? That is when the other person starts to think, well, this is feeling a bit, we're on a plateau here. This is starting to feel a bit like we're roommates. This is starting to feel a bit like, it's everything from I'm not saying you have to get dressed up, and do stuff. I'm not saying you have to go to bed wearing sexy lingerie every minute. There's loads of people, obviously people have their own opinions, and it is just opinion, and it's also down to the individuals as a couple. My personal feeling as a person is that I do certain things in my relationships, not just for the man, but also for myself. So to me, I'm not going to go to bed with my head wrapped and with like old looking pajamas. I've not done that anyway. I mean, if I'm living on my own, maybe, but I just wouldn't. And the same as with like the heels thing. If my partner says like they like heels and dresses, then what's the big deal? That's not like end of the earth. But if they have like certain requirements where I'm like, no, that's not for me. But it is just making that extra effort. Sometimes you have to put that energy in, that time and that work in. You don't have to, but it helps. So again, these are the 5 things which I think if everyone paid attention to these 5 things, it would make a difference. And it wouldn't mean that your relationship would be over. You've just said you had an ex. Let me just have a look. So Guido, you've put, you had an ex who basically said she didn't want to be together, she came back, she asked for change, I changed, and she resumed. But the point is, yeah, so what you're saying, Guido, then is, if she split up with you and she then ended the relationship, you said she came back, but that means you would have you gave her the green light to come back, which is nothing wrong with that, because you said she asked for change, you changed, and then she resented you for filling the expectations she couldn't. Okay. Well, if this is what I'm trying to say. Like, no one, you're both in control of what you decide to do as a person. You're not in control of your partner, but you're in control of yourself. So if you've got a partner and you're saying it's not working, or if as you've said, she's not fulfilling expectations, then then you've got the choice to walk away from that relationship. And you're saying that you want to work for it. If you can work on it, but if she doesn't want to work on it, because you're saying she's not fulfilling the expectations, then no matter how much work you put in, it's still going to end up being a relationship which is one-sided. This is what people have to then make a decision on, because a relationship isn't going to work if one person is trying. You said she resented you for improving. Yeah, that is quite common, where someone breaks up with someone because they feel they're not giving them what they want. And then that person does self-development work, works on themselves. Maybe they're in better shape. Maybe they, I don't know what's going on there. Whether people work on themselves, and then she taught you not to tolerate. You don't debate. You tell them to leave. Well, I mean, that's your choice, Guido. If you're saying that because you're not in how you're describing it as well, that you're not winning in this situation. Because what you're saying is that you're having to control or to tell someone how to act so that they then become the person you want them to be. Why would you have to tell someone to leave so that their behaviour improves? That means you're giving them an ultimatum, because they're only then doing that because you've told them to leave. So it's not going to last anyway. Someone can't sustain a behaviour just because they've been put under threat by saying, if you don't step up, then I'm going to leave. All they'll do is they'll I'm talking to Guido and Bobby. I can't see anything that you're saying. So yeah, Guido, you're saying they're free people and they're free to leave. You're also free to end the relationship, because what you're saying is that you're telling them to leave if they don't behave in the way that you want. But then they're behaving like it, but then they're not maintaining it. So neither of you need to be in that relationship. You've both got a choice. So ultimately, as I've said, the 5 things before we end is to not focus on the past. To people are having a lack of respect and a lack of understanding and a lack of patience, so that can ruin a relationship. People being insecure, people trying to control everything, and people not putting the work in to improve the relationship. So if everyone sort of looked at those things separately and they said, these are the things I'm going to do moving forward, I'm going to focus on the present, I'm going to be respectful, I'm going to be curious about my partner, so we're in a stage where we're understanding each other, I'm going to be patient, I'm going to work on my insecurities. Hi, Zabrodi. I'm going to try to not control everything. I'm just going to allow that partner to, do what they need to do. And I'm going to put the work in. If you did that, the chances are you've got a more likely chance of success than you would if you didn't do those things. So thank you to everyone that's joined. I really appreciate everyone that is, is contributing in the discussion today. Anyone that watches this on the replay, feel free to leave your comments as well. And I'll speak to you all soon. Have a great week. Bye.